So here's what you need to know in a nutshell. Young people who are prone to addiction, they're all about outcomes and rewards. But when bad outcomes happen, they have a hard time hardwiring and learning from those mistakes. And so a lot of people who come to treatment who are young continue to make mistakes over and over again, despite their morals, despite their love for their family, despite their principles, despite their ambitions for the future. So you might wonder, what can we do? When young people have a hard time learning from consequences, but they're all about making decisions based on outcomes, what do? How do we break this cycle? How do we help them achieve their dreams and their goals? How do we restore them to the young people that we know that they are? In our program, we tend to emphasize 3 different values. One is humility, the second is empathy, and the third is grace. We teach them skills on how to relate to other people, how to resolve conflicts, and how to make decisions differently. Humility is another important concept in recovery. Humility means not taking oneself so seriously. In this illustration, you see that this person is standing on firm ground. And if they are met with rejection, if they fail at something, if they take a blow on the chin, they're going to fall. But they're going to get right back up because they're already on the ground. Well, in our world, we teach people to celebrate themselves, to believe in a kind of self-confidence. So what happens is, over time, they start to stack chairs. Their Instagram page looks different. Their resume looks different. Their athletic prowess is different. And somehow now, way up high, they're very different than other people. This makes it very hard for them to empathize because they're not the same. They see differences instead of commonalities. But here's what really happens. The higher you go, the harder you fall. So a lot of young people who've built their lives up on their achievements, on their talents, on their differences compared to others, when they suffer failure and rejection, and if they happen to be vulnerable for addiction, they fall hard. And they fall through the ground, the flat ground that is their humility, and they go down to a place where they have self-loathing and self-hatred and poor self-esteem. And we know that with a simple law of physics, that the higher you go, the harder you fall. Empathic thinking or empathic perspective is a really important concept here. Empathy is a little different than compassion. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to be suffering. Empathy is basically the concept that you can walk in someone's shoes and imagine what it might be like to live in their life and look at life through their lens. We've established that young people who are prone to addiction make decisions based on outcomes. They care about other people, but in the moment, they're thinking about rewards. And then downstream, we know that they're not going to learn from consequences when they make those bad decisions. So in our program, we tend to teach a lot of empathic perspective and a lot of empathic thinking. For example, in our family program, we put young people with other people's parents so they can share experiences and walk in each other's shoes. We have group activities and individual activities so they can reflect on their experiences and see commonalities between them and millions of other people who have the same disorder. This is why we have groups. This is why we have community activities. So much of our effort is really enhancing empathic decision-making so that when they reach that fork in the road, they're not just thinking, what am I going to get, or am I going to get caught with this? They're thinking, what would I have other people do in this situation? And that kind of thinking lends itself to recovery. Another important concept in recovery is the concept of grace. And this is not to get religious about anything. Grace is simply getting an unmerited forgiveness. A lot of young people come to treatment because their family members love them, not because there's some sense of justice, but because they care about them regardless of what happened before. That love is really unconditional. And when young people embrace this sense of grace, it transforms them because they have gratitude. They know that what they've been given is something that hasn't always been deserved. And because of that gratefulness, they're able to extend that grace to others.